I come today to say that we must decriminalize what they're doing in this industry. I don't smoke weed, but those that have the medical need to be able to fulfill that, and we are tired of seeing young people, disproportionately Black and Latino, go to jail for weed in small amounts. On Friday, I was the keynote speaker at the Cannabis World Congress and Business Expo, reaffirming my stance that the explosive growth of the legal marijuana industry should not bypass minority communities. The legal weed business made more than $4 billion last year, eclipsing Viagra, tequila, and Girl Scout cookies in sales. Yet only about 1% of the nearly 3,600 dispensaries in the country are Black-owned, according to reporting by BuzzFeed. I want to emphasize that as a minister, apart from an occasional cigar, I'm a non-smoker. But I'm more interested in justice than judgment. And earlier this week, we learned that Attorney General Jeff Sessions now wants to prosecute medical marijuana dispensaries in states where it has been legalized. This at the same time, he wants to reinstate mandatory minimums for nonviolent drug offenders, hearkening back to a pre-Obama drug war that decimated Black and Latino communities. So whether it's pot shops or prison sentences, people of color have to be a part of the conversation about marijuana's future instead of just targets of the drug wars past and present. Joining me now is Wanda James, a former consultant to President Obama and the first African-American woman to own a legal marijuana dispensary. Wanda, let me begin by going to one of the issues that really got me involved, because I'm not a weed smoker, not in that at all, don't preach it, but I think that people should not be incarcerated for inordinate amount of time for nonviolent marijuana use. And President Obama talked about on this show at the end of his presidency how he had commuted more nonviolent drug-related offenders than the last 11 presidents combined. I mean, I think people need to understand that when we talk about decriminalization, people were doing 10, 15, 20 years for this kind of stuff, and disproportionately in Black and Latino communities.
Hey, Reverend Al, how you doing? You know, this is a real issue. My brother did 10 years in the prison system for 4.5 ounces of cannabis, which was more or less cannabis than we see on college campuses, which is a tremendous, a lot less amount of cannabis than we sell in our dispensary on any given day or any given hour, for that matter. And this is the crazy thing that we look at. Your zip code in America will determine whether you are a millionaire or a felon based on cannabis and cannabis sales. The arrest of Black and brown people is one of the most, because of cannabis, is the most racist law in American history. And it's time that we start to look at what the issues have been, how bad it's messed up our neighborhoods, what it's doing to our communities, while at the same time, there are a number of white entrepreneurs that are making billions and billions of dollars and are on the cover of Forbes magazine. What sense does that make?
And part of what I said to the Congress is, on one side, we get locked up, those that smoke weed, at a disproportionate number. And then now that the industry is legal in 23 states, we get locked out of going into the business side. So either side, we're dealing with racism, and we've got to confront it. You've been able to be one of the few to really break through that wall. But we're talking about an industry that now is making billions. They project going toward 30 billion. And there are those that have medical use. We're not just talking about people using it to get high and have fun, recreational drugs, but have medical use here from using dispensaries like yours.
There's tremendous medical use. We've been taking care of babies, people with epilepsy, people with cancer. And I hear you on that. But let me also bring up the fact, too, Al, we've got to change how we look at cannabis, because our communities now also stop many young people, enterprising young people, from wanting to join the industry and be a part of this because of the negativity that we look down on this for. And look, whether you use it for medicinal purposes or even if you choose a safer way to recreate, to have recreation, cannabis is hundreds times more safer than alcohol. You can't die from cannabis. You can't overdose on cannabis. And cannabis as a plant is not addictive in the same ways that alcohol is. There are so many different avenues that we need to discuss this in our community and better understand this. Because if we don't get a handle on this, we will continue to be at the mercy of crooked law enforcement and racist laws. For example, this morning we've all been talking about Philando Castile, another horrible situation in American history. And what's the first thing the police came out and said about him? Oh, there was cannabis in his system.
Oh, yeah, that's what they said.
Michael Brown, cannabis in his system. Sandra Bland, cannabis in her system. Trayvon Martin, cannabis in his system. It becomes a part to make us criminals, to make us come off as that we're not in control of our lives, when the white population smokes just as much.
The other part of that, which I think people don't understand, you have cities, including New York, where they can deny you a apartment in public housing if you've been arrested for smoking weed. You're blocked from getting certain jobs. You're blocked from getting certain banking. I mean, just if you were busted 10, 12 years ago for smoking weed, you literally can become one that can't use public housing, can't go to certain schools for smoking a joint. And you've got people that have fleeced millions of dollars, harmed people, that don't have those kind of barriers.
And this is what we have got to start to fight. We have got to change our perspective on this plant. And then we've got to go with this and stop the institutional racism that is used against us because of cannabis. It is a tremendously large issue, and the fact that the Trump administration and Sessions are now fighting to reverse medicinal marijuana. Have you seen the babies we've been helping? This is nothing but straight out, unadulterated racism at its finest. To be able to lock people up for simply having a plant in their possession is the most ridiculous law that we will ever see in this country, and it must end, and it must end immediately.
Well, thank you, Wanda James, and that's why I'm standing up on this. Really not a lot of us in the civil rights community yet, but I hope there'll be more. I'm taking some flack for it, but I took flack when I came out for same-sex marriage. I'm not gay, but I am pro-civil rights for everybody. I don't smoke weed, but I am for justice for everybody. Coming up, I've got to go. Thank you, Wanda.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.